Hi, my name's Jason Pearson, presenting today at Android Dev Community, and wanted to tell you what I've been working on with AutoMobile. And just so you know, this is a unique presentation straight from the AutoMobile code base. So I'm Jason Pearson. I'm a staff engineer working at Slack on the mobile developer experience team. Everything else that I'm going to talk about is just the AutoMobile open source project. Doesn't have anything to do with Salesforce. Just wanted to disclaim that. So, why am I talking about AutoMobile today? Um, it's because the best of mobile tooling has been inaccessible for a pretty long time. The number of people who have spent countless hours, days, years on end-to-end tests, on Espresso, on trying to get Appium cross-platform tests to work, on trying to get performance testing to work, on trying to get accessibility testing to work. Um, and the reason for this is more or less it's either costly, and cost is not always monetary. Cost is sometimes just time, effort. Spending engineering time for 6 months on something is not simply it's not free. It's in the company's mind, it's paying for that time. And therefore, to say like, hey, we're gonna go make accessibility better, performance better, or we're going to align our design grid to 8 pixel grids. The company looks at this and is like, huh, is this really going to give us what's the return in investment on this? And then there's the specialized expertise. It's hard to do some of these things without having done them before or without having a mentor somewhere in your community, going to a meetup and talking with other people about some of these things. And as I have done my career, I've seen lots of other engineers who mentored me pay it forward by sharing their experience. And yet there are some things that are still really hard, especially in mobile world. And there's no cohesive UX that really ties them together. If you want to, oh, guess I should silence notifications on my phone. If you want to have a tied uh, experience for UX of these tools, you're not really going to find it. You don't really hear about someone doing leak canary performance or Perfetto performance or systrace stuff, and then being able to tie that to the crash reports that they get or the accessibility reports that they get or um, with their normal day-to-day app development. These are all very distinct workflows that don't happen simultaneously. And it's kind of like AutoCAD in 2008 in some ways. If anyone else remembers tools from back then, is just you had this wall of icons that you would click one and it had very specific uses and purposes, and then you would have a whole workflow inside of that, and then you would go to something else and have a different workflow for that tool. There was no unified workflow. AutoCAD is 1,000 workflows. Um, and automating TDM in mobile engineering has therefore been out of reach. There are some things in mobile engineering with being able to automate automated tests, but who here has automated a performance test or an accessibility test in a reliable, non-flaky way? Very few, I think. So I built AutoMobile to change a lot of this. It's an open source MCP server and it allows AI agents to control Android and iOS devices. It therefore, through AI agents, allows natural language interaction. And most features do not require an SDK dependency. I made try to make it sure as much as possible that these tools did not need to be invasive and could actually reuse and recompose a lot of the existing tools in our ecosystem. And that brings me to mobile use as a topic. Um, to give some backstory on that, um, about a year ago, we had browser use kick off with Playwright and MCP, and therefore we had Playwright MCP. This got a lot of AI-driven tests for a wider audience. You were able to explore and debug and prototype, and there was this explosion of vibe coding, but not as much for mobile. And what did the web folks have that we didn't? Well, a front-end engineer could ask an AI agent to inspect a page, click through a user flow, check local storage, profile performance, file a bug. It wasn't just what is on the screen. It wasn't just look at the screenshot and tell me what's there. It was the entire stack. And mobile engineers were still alt-tabbing between Android Cursor and Android Studio or Xcode. And we were solving for that. Meanwhile, what I was doing was solving for UI testing tools. Um, and I noticed that that opens up full mobile use. Because if you have to solve for all of UI testing and like all kinds of UI testing, you have to handle not just observing the screen and tapping or complex gestures or pinch to zoom and drag and drop. You also have to do biometric auth. You also have to do notifications and system tray. You have to handle multiple apps. There's all kinds of cases in UI testing that's like, oh, you really need to automate and make better tools for everything. So to tie this back together, like this is what AutoMobile does. You describe what you want to do. For example, explore the app and explain how it works. Um, and the way I design the MCP tools through lots of iteration was to navigate and inspect like real users do. We don't say when we look at a form with name, date, um, and various other form fields like address, we don't say click on this, fill this out. No, what we usually give for each other as humans is in terms of like talking about filling out a form is my name is Jason Pearson and I'm a senior staff engineer at Slack and I live at this address in Minnesota and um, all these things. And so what if the tool calls were more designed in the way that we think and speak? Um, so the way it does this is it looks at the entire view hierarchy and does smart element search using its own internal heuristics, no AI for that. And it finds the most likely elements to interact with. And it uses accessibility nodes. It uses all those things that our other tooling relies upon. Reproducing a bug from a crash report. Pasting in a bug report stack trace and saying reproduce this. Well, normally just a code engine would, or an LLM agent would say, okay, cool, I'm gonna go like look at the code itself and modify the code. Maybe I'll compile it for you. Good luck doing that with Gradle. Um, and AutoMobile will do that with an automatic video recording and device snapshot and accumulate time series performance data and accessibility snapshots as well as accessibility warnings of issues along the way. And that is a more complete, more usable data set of, oh, this is what's wrong. As well as on Android, I can have a little useful feature where I can highlight it for you. Show that later. Um, then there's profiling app performance. I've mentioned a couple times about performance and different ways of tracing. On Android, I'm using graphics info. On iOS, I'm using some other specific tooling, basically to get constant performance indicator of frames per second, frame time, number of janky frames, frames lost, vsync, time to interactivity, touch latency, all of these things as a constant stream of data for both debug and release apps, whatever app is currently on whatever device you have it connected to. And those real-time numbers are I built an IDE companion plugin that we'll take a look at in soon, and you'll be able to see like how it looks like to watch that data go by. And I've already used this way of developing to make the iOS version of Automobile Playground. And this makes performance work more accessible because instead of, hey, how do I go do this? And then I read 17 blog posts from all of these accomplished engineers over the past 5, 10, 20 years about performance, whether it's build performance or app performance or JVM specific performance or performance of graphics in a specific scenario inside of Surface View. No, what if it's just, what if we always had some kind of performance tooling available to us? And the reason that I can make all of this possible is because the element search is highly reproducible. It always gives the same exact results, given the same view hierarchy. So if the view hierarchy is stable, and hopefully we're making UI stable apps, then that works. And how it keeps working is it um, not only automatically determines the element and screen position, it survives design changes in different devices because I'm never using coordinates in my record and playback tests. So I'm never asking the AI to do math because it gets that wrong sometimes. I'm asking it, hey, do you want to click on sign up or log in? Do you want to click on what thing? And then the AI just say, yes, this piece of text. I'd like to click on that, please. Maybe within this bounding element container so that I can have it direct its touches and interactions. And I don't rely on AI for every single interaction. There are quite a lot of options to do multiple actions inside of the MCP without any AI involvement, and that's how we can go a lot faster. So here's some demos. Um, so fun fact, what you're seeing right now is the live layout of AutoMobile inspecting my phone through AutoMobile. Um, and you can see the view hierarchy update in real time. You can see I can highlight the left and right touch views and that little emoji center. And this works on both Android and iOS devices. You can see my little Pixel 10 Pro status connected up here. Sorry if that's hard to see on the, let's see if I can make this more and big in this. And big in, I say. Um, and I can turn on accessibility tap target analysis and be like, oh, cool, there's no tap targets that are broken here. Um, I can go to navigation and maybe this is going to work. Come on. There we go. Okay, so what you were seeing before was a live uh, one sec, rotating for the win. What you were seeing before was the live layout inspection and view hierarchy. And now what you're seeing is the live navigation graph of everything AutoMobile can see of the current app. And as I move through, um, you can see that I can reach different destinations. And if I turn off the fog and zoom out, you can see the whole graph of the entire app. Um, this works. This is one of the very few things in AutoMobile that needs an AutoMobile SDK for. Um, I am registering a Navigation 3 Compose um, navigation listener and or Compose Navigation 3, something like that, listener, and then I'm capturing the destinations that are fed through that listener and firing them back through AutoMobile to be then correlated with the screenshots and view hierarchy that I'm always observing. This happens in about 20 to 100 milliseconds latency, um, kind of similar to the latency that you're observing in the live layout. And you can see I can go all the way to my home screen and still be able to observe everything. Um, there's some other interesting things that are in here, and these are mostly Jason has had um, time on his hands and has been playing with all these fun features he threw together with all this data and thought, hey, wow, that looks cool. I should go build that without really any outside feedback. Um, So for example, the failures area, I'm going to go to a little bug report screen inside of Automobile Playground and tap this button to trigger some non-fatal errors. And come on, live demo. Yeah, so 4:49 p.m. my time. So those are the 20 non-fatals I just triggered. I'm going to trigger a crash. And I can see that I get notified inside the ID of the crash that was detected. If I click here, I can see that this crash was on this screen. Um, I can see the whole stack trace from ADB, ADB logcat, as well as this has happened before on different versions of this app on different devices or Android simulators. I can copy the logs. I can export a bundle, which includes the device snapshot that this or not an emulator snapshot, but um, app backup. And on iOS, it's a an app container. And then this button does not work yet. This whole reproduce thing, but the idea is that you'd be able to restore the state of whatever device snapshot on whatever currently connected device, and you could try to reproduce those exact actions. Um, Next, I want to show a live demo, which is going to be very simple. So this is AutoMobile running a test using its own Kotlin JUnit runner without any AI, and therefore it runs just as fast as an espresso test. What it's doing to do that is saying, oh, cool, I'm going to register myself as a JUnit runner, and I'm going to execute this plan. And it's just a YAML file. Looks a lot like Maestro. And if you look into it, it says, cool, I'm going to start this app. I'm going to click on these things. Um, Note that something I had mentioned before about being able to fill out a form field. I'm working on a tool called set device UI, and it would just do all of those steps in one shot without needing to observe or tap again because every single call that I'm making does another observation. Um, and this should reduce round trip time. Now, interesting thing about what I just did was in this plugin over here, you might have noticed test runs down here. Now, these are all of the test runs that I've done locally on my machine connected to any number of devices. I haven't really been too prescriptive about how I'm going to be filtering this quite yet. So I can now hit play and I can watch the video playback of the video recording that was automatically instantiated of that test. If there was a failure here, I'd be able to follow it frame by frame. Um, One thing, IntelliJ plugins are really weird to work in. So I haven't been able to get exactly video playing in this, and that's why it doesn't look so smooth. But I have a helpful link where I have the MP4 file, and you can see it is actually smooth frames. Um, and since it's easy to export those files, you can see that it's easy to share with people. And that's why I had this little handy button at the bottom, send debug bundle. I'm kind of figuring that I can either deep link into Slack or email or some other things this way and make it easy to send things to friends and teammates. So let's do a harder thing. Let's browse Google Maps. Um, so it just did a pinch gesture on Google Maps, and it also avoided two important things. It avoided putting the one virtual finger on the um, search bar or the top chips. And it also avoided putting the other virtual finger on the bottom sheet um, in the bottom, I guess, like quarter of the screen. If you look at the code for most things like Maestro or WebDriver, whatever, that have these sort of capabilities, they don't do a whole lot to ensure where your gesture is landing. And therefore, things like this get really hard, let alone like actual pinch to zoom or drag and drop because they can't do multi-touch. Um, so that's possible there. And just one more time. This was recording from a little while ago, like 20 minutes ago, because I was wondering if this was going to work. Um, and you can see at each step how long we were spending on each step. So you can also debug that as part of running tests. Um, what else did I want to show? Um, so that's not working and it should. Slight pause for technical difficulties. Yes. Okay. Um, so this is showing the internal shared prefs of everything inside of the AutoMobile Playground app. This also takes an SDK integration, kind of like Flipper does. And databases is coming soon. Just one thing at a time here. Um, and even though there's this edit icon, live editing does not yet work. It will. This is simple, like data transfer back and forth. I've gotten it streaming data out. Just need to work on the whole streaming data in. This last tab is about diagnostics. It's mostly for me, honestly, in building this thing, just being like, hey, what's connected to what, and what is working or not working? Where are the Unix sockets? What are we talking to right now? Um, Trying to give all that to myself. And and then there's the performance tab. Um, so this is live data coming from the device, and it doesn't really matter which app is in the foreground, it will always give this data. So um, I can go to the home screen and force close all these. None of this data requires an SDK for either for performance data, which means that without um, any of that, I can, let's say, I don't know, let's go open LinkedIn. Hi, Stacy. Shout out. Um, and I can click on her profile and I can see frame time over here in performance. I can look at the view hierarchy over here. And therefore, anyone using this tool, trying it out, doesn't need to say, oh, like, let's go install an SDK in order to see how this works. And actually, an SDK would be slower and more invasive and cause more issues and be harder to support. Um, Now, I know this is an Android meetup, but this is kind of fun. Uh,
Jason, can I ask you a question?
yeah.
I might have missed it, but I'm wondering, the automobile, I mean, this screen we're seeing, is that a plugin within IntelliJ?
Yes.
Oh, it is? Are, are you using KMP?
Um, so what I'm using to render this plugin is the IntelliJ Compose Joule APIs. So yes, it is KMP in the sense that Compose Joule IntelliJ is based on that. And therefore, fingers crossed, if you had a Linux or Windows machine with Android Studio, you could install and run this plugin and it would not crash. But I haven't tested that. I have Macs at home. So if anyone wants to help test that out for me, I'd be very, very appreciative and very happy to iterate with them to get it working.
Thank you. Sorry to catch you out.
Um, oh no, it's okay. I want this to be able to support um all engineers on all platforms. And that's kind of where I'm heading with this is so I had this iOS simulator here, and I can go back to devices. This might not work. Please work. Oh my gosh, it's working. Maybe. This is what I get for building in a new feature in the last 30 minutes. Okay, so you're gonna have to trust me on that one. This is what I was going to show is opening up the Reminders app and showing you looking at the view hierarchy of the iOS simulator and showing you that the tap targets for one of Apple's systems apps is not compliant with accessibility requirements. um, and also the performance data and other stuff. Um, so that's that part that is not working in the moment, but iOS is definitely pretty new. Um, and generally speaking, um, the rest of what I have is in terms of demos, is more easily seen on the doc site for this project. You can see this bug reproduction demo where you're going to see it highlight exactly where the AI agent that was driving this particular adventure noticed that something went wrong and is like, oh, this is the thing indicating that we have this bug. And therefore, when we go fix this bug, someone should be able to notice that the display count matches the expected count, for example. A couple other things is YouTube search through web views in Chrome. Just because it's not written in XML or Compose doesn't mean that we can't inspect this. So you can see able to navigate a pretty complicated interface. By the way, YouTube's view hierarchy is about 150 kilobytes. So I filtered that down to about 5 or 6 kilobytes, just tossing out all the view hierarchy that doesn't make any sense. And um, and yeah, um, last part I was going to show is just the rest of my slides. So let me get back to that. This is the one thing I have not solved presenting like this. Okay, so um, state of the project is basically what I just walked you through, is what works today, what is buggy or in progress. Android platform support is pretty solid. iOS support is prototyped, and I have the ability to run the AI agent, and I can see the iOS simulator in the IDE plugin at least most of the time. What's next is actively building towards a 1.0 version. This version is 0.0.12. 13 will be released later today. And there's design docs on the GitHub pages for AutoMobile. I'm going to be writing some technical blog posts about different interesting performance hurdles that or just weird things I've had to figure out along the way, as well as the IDE plugin UX is a little hard to be constrained by the amount of data and uh, UI that I want to be able to display and have control over. So building a standalone desktop app. And I'm going to be writing about performance improvements, how it reuses observability, the challenges of emulator simulator operation, and keeping a monorepo with big ambitions on track while um, making heavy use of AI to write it. If there's anything else that anyone's interested in hearing more about or me writing about, just reach out. Um, and and yeah, honestly, QR code is old, so there you go. Um, and I guess lastly, I'm going to publish this now. Everything I just talked about in this talk, I also have a blog post for. So you can go to Jason Pearson Dev and kind of see what I was talking about. And if you want to try it, there's this handy installer, and I can run it for you myself. So what this installer does is it checks your system to say like, okay, you've got Node installed, you've got Bun installed, you've got the Android SDK in the right place with Android Home set, you've got Xcode installed, cool. So I'll be able to like do everything. If you don't have Xcode or Android, it lets you go through that and you can set it up differently or later. And then depending on which AI agent you want to use, I've tried to set up support for configuring it with any of them. Um, you can see that it's already detected that Claude code is configured on my machine. And so I can either say keep current AI agent setup, or pick one of the other ones. And if there's no changes, no changes. And then I can just go. Um, let me actually, do people want to start with questions now, or do you want to see one more live demo of it actually in real use? I'm also open to the question of tell me what to type.
Bingo questions, yeah. So we'll see another demo and then save the questions for last.
Sure. So I mentioned, or I showed you before that the navigation graph is accessible to the IDE. It's also accessible through a tool call that is right now hidden behind a debug flag, but can make it accessible through tool calling to then easily say, like, this is what the app is, instead of having to go crawl it again and figure it out. This is one of the big problems that I ran into was that you would potentially ask an AI, hey, go check if any screen has issues with end-to-end Android 15 or edge-to-edge Android 15 UI requirement. Is it using insets correctly? But it would visit 5 screens and say, I'm done. Um, what this allows is potentially a full, like, here's the navigation graph. Go traverse it. You AI, you can see what the graph is now. Okay, that's it.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Any questions in the room or on Zoom?
Yeah, can you share the resources, Jason? Because that was pretty cool.
Um, yeah, so resources. Um, so there's this, which will take you to the docs site for AutoMobile, and from there you can see all the source code. If you're curious about the IDE plugin, all the source code for that is right there. The JUnit runner that I was using to run tests with AutoMobile is right here. It's also published now on Maven Central. Again, version is 0012. There's also the AutoMobile SDK is published up there. That's how failures and non-fatals crashes and storage data um, is getting and navigation and compose recomposition data is getting reported out of an Android app. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here like using the same schema that AutoMobile uses for its MCP tool input for test plan validation. And therefore, when you have the plugin installed and you go to a plan Um, it's going to give you autocomplete of every single tool type that is available. And if I type in gibberish, it's going to tell you like it must be one of the valid AutoMobile tools, like, and if a test tries to run this, it will fail and be like, hey, this did not pass validation, is not a valid test. Um, and the other things that are up here, so basically in terms of resources, follow this one link to AutoMobile docs and you'll see everything. The only other thing is this guy. So I can make that available to everybody in the meetup notes. And I'll post it in the Zoom chat so that people aren't trying to screenshot and then rewrite it later. Shout out to Anthony, who really helped me review the docs.
Thanks. I guess I have a couple of questions. The first one in the performance tab that we saw where it was calling out the janky frames and the 60 FPS. If there are a ton of janky frames, like do you have any visions of like, providing details of like how to like what is causing the jank and like going about fixing that?
So, um, where that is coming from is running graphics info, which gives a lot more data and a lot more detail about what's going on. Um, I basically took the high level of what Automobile is actually using today. So, when I'm doing idle awaiting, before I say like I'm going to take a view hierarchy observation and then return that to um, the MCP server to then return to the AI agent, I'm looking at graphics info, looking for janky frames to be reduced, looking for frames per second to um, come back to where they were before we took an action. So if it's an app that can only ever attain 50 frames per second, there's this threshold that I'm looking for it to come back to within a certain amount of time. If it times out after 1 or 2 seconds, I'm just like, okay, cool, I'm going to take the view hierarchy observation. Your question was, can I get more performance data and can I get enough to identify and fix issues? I'm going to work on that. It's just going through all of that data and aggregating it and making sure that I can keep doing so without introducing any performance overhead, which has been really important to me, is that I can have constant performance data. Um, if I notice that there's something valuable, um, but takes longer, I might make that like click this to start this particular inspection. Um, it's just that when I have used the live layout inspector inside of Android Studio, it would crash or it would cause freezes in Android Studio or other things, and that kind of that's not what I wanted inside of this. I wanted it to be really, really smooth.
Yeah, makes sense. And then the second question for the navigation view, your example was like a composed navigation component. What about a case of hybrid where maybe you have like a XML based navigation component, but you have composables in it?
So if you want to go add that today, um, uh, let's say track navigation. Cool. So dun dun dun. Um, it's towards the bottom over here somewhere. Somewhere. Okay, so I right now I have two things. One is a navigation 3 adapter. And the other is a circuit adapter because I work at Slack and I thought that would be helpful. Um, and there's also this currently unused, but it's available on the Navigation 3 adapter. I need to make an interface that makes sense for other people. Um, but hitting this would allow you to track whatever navigation event. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, um, you could chuck this into on activity create or on fragment view create, whatever. As long as you're doing it inside of your app, I can correlate it with the view hierarchy observations that I'm making, and then I can build the navigation graph.
That makes sense.
Um, yeah, can I speak?
Yeah, it's the room has mic.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. So I think the first one you might have already answered, but I just want to double check. So does this also track the third-party SDKs that I use in that, like especially for views?
Nope.
So it's like the entire native whatever. But
I didn't hear that last part, but I just don't have anything that would look for or use other third-party SDKs. There's when I built the failures tab, I've used Sentry and Bugsnag and Crashlytics, and I'm not sure how much use this is on its own because it's really just your local failures, right? And um, but I was thinking of all the times I've had my device connected and I noticed a crash and I was like, darn, I didn't have a debugger connected or I didn't have ADB logcat and it spit out 10 million log lines and it's gone, like whatever that stack trace was. Or an ANR happened. This has ANR detection and reporting built in. So then you can actually see what that stack trace and other stuff was about. Um, so um, might eventually make plugins so that we can have external failure stuff like Sentry imported into this, but I'm not sure I see the point. It's like that's not happening locally. Like this is happening locally. This is the device that you care about.
gotcha. I mean, just to make sure, I understood you correctly. So the context I'm intending here was, so let's say if I use a third-party SDK like Lottie to present some particular views in my app, right? And that's what I'm intending here. So does this track Lottie or any other SDK where I specifically use for UI? So that's what I'm like
Um,
mainly intending.
let's see. Okay, so I'm going to pull up what I just did on my phone. I have an EXO player view. And of course, oh, yep. So video player destination. Um, is just treating it as view. Doesn't quite understand EXO player itself. Um, but the thing is, part of what I've done with the view hierarchy filtering is I just specifically filter out most class names. There must be something in the filtering name logic that is incorrect or keeping something around that it shouldn't, or not keeping around something it should, in terms of the EXO player view video player. That's a bug. Um, any custom view should have its entire class name present here. That's part of why you can see button here. That's part of if I go back to other areas of the app. Believe there should be some image views or something somewhere. There we go. Image view, edit text, other things. So definitely paying attention to the different views as just and we should be able to have Lottie integration. Um, if there's desire for the properties of Lottie to like be live updated over here, we could do that. Also contributions welcome. Um, uh, you can actually see here that the full class is listed here, android.widget.editText. So that is in there. It's just not in the display over here. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks. And the next one is about the database that you had, right? Like, I'm curious if you could share a little bit about, like, what you're visualizing for the database experience.
Basically what Flipper had, like, um, so inside of database, you could select a database, you could select a table, you could see structure, SQL, history of queries. These are fake. And actually, here's some more fake data of what the UX would look like. This is how I built out a lot of the UX for the IDE plugin is I generated fake UX and then I worked from there.
I mean, yeah, this again, asking follow-up, like to make sure I understand correctly. So when you say database, like, do you mean like it's going to access the database for the app? Like, for example, if you say iOS, it's like core data, right? For Android, it's going to access the SQLite DB in the app and then show that data there. And-
Yes.
Okay, great. And how about like and like any plan for showing like memory objects too? Because like there might be some apps where
No.
okay. Cool.
I mean, so what I have to do right now is harden what I have because obviously we're seeing a couple bugs come through. Um, there's database is totally fake right now. Like there's no real connection. There's no SQL. There's not even an Android SQLite um, wrapper thing to observe the database yet. There is one for shared press. Um, and once I have database stuff working, I want to refine failures. I want to fix a lot of things in view hierarchy. I want to refine this navigation. As you can see, the screenshots just all disappeared. And why did that happen? Well, because um, there's this fun bug that keeps coming up, and it's basically because it was looking at fake data. That's why. Okay, here it is. But just trust me, there is a bug in real data in navigation graph where screenshots go away, and I've been working on that literally today to try to make this more solid. And also this experience of fog. Um, I wasn't sure what would be the best user experience with it. Like, would it be helpful for people to understand, especially in a navigation graph where you have 50 or 500 navigation nodes in a really complex app? Um, would this fog thing help people make sense of it? Is it useful at all in this way? Um, is turning fog off and zooming out and moving around on your own more useful? There's also like the layout of the navigation graph. Like, um, does this look like the mental model that I have for my app? No. Um, Most of the time when I have a mental model, I like have a login or splash screen at the start. And where is that inside of this? Well, in this particular app, this is the onboarding destination. This is the first screen, but I've also seen the navigation graph generate it where it's in the top right because it generates the graph as it explores, right? So I have some problems here to figure out and harden already. And I need to get iOS up to parity. Um, then I can add, then I can think about things like memory objects because I saw Jesse's presentation at DroidCon New York. I think it was like a year or two ago, and it was about memory objects and like how to identify them on KMP projects. And I was like, wow, that's amazing stuff. That's very far from where I am right now.
Awesome. Thanks. And then I think one little fun fact I found was like that navigation reminded me of like the storyboards in Xcode. I don't know if you was, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that, and I remember when we used to have XML navigation in Android. Some apps still have it. Um, I remember like trying to commit that graph so that our team could all have the same mental model and just being like, wow, this totally doesn't work as a concept because of how that was laid out. That's a hard problem. I'm not even sure if the navigation graph visualization is like, maybe it just looks cool, but I'm not sure of the exact um, problem we're solving if I can't make it stable and I can't make it match pe an entire team's mental model of a given app. So those are some considerable problems to work out with navigation graph. Um, one thing that I've been toying around with is up here you can see there's a single like devices and I can click on devices and like go to another one. And I'm really constrained on UX real estate here, but what if I could have two devices side by side being observed and I can compare iOS to Android? And I could compare things like are the colors used the same? Does the font look the same height in pixels? Things that I've come across as tasks but are hard to do. Um, but with a setup like this, maybe I could. Um, so the entire multi-device concept is definitely in my head as a thing to try to get working. Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and hope you all have a good night.